Welcome to the Daybreak with Jeff Slakey podcast. I'm so happy you found us. Please subscribe, rate, review, and share this with your circle of influence. It's a collection of the interviews, news, and conversation during Daybreak with Jeff Slakey on I-Fiber One News Radio, KMAS, weekdays from 6 to 9. Good Tuesday morning to you. It's the 4th of August. It's primary election day. Good morning, Spencer. How are you?
Hey, doing great. All the ballots in to the main headquarters there that we did that feature on. Dropped them in the slot.
Yeah,
all good to go.
I got all 5 of mine in today. Wait, I'm just kidding.
Still a couple more to go.
The elections office in Mason County is still at 411 North 5th Street, but the entrance is in the back of the building, so not on 5th Street, but it's on the back side of the building. You'll see the red, white, and blue vote signs. They have information. That office won't be open all day, through the day today, but by 8 p.m. tonight, your ballots either need to be postmarked or put into one of the various drop boxes around the county. Again, a reminder, I think this is our third or fourth election now that we haven't had to put stamps on our ballots, so that's a good thing. And, Washington is only one of 5 states in the union that fully votes by mail. Secretary of State Kim Wyman, Republican Kim Wyman, has been very vocal about the security of our elections in the great state of Washington and how the mail-in process seems to work very well for us. It's Washington, Oregon, Colorado, I believe, Utah, and Hawaii are the 5 states that vote by mail. And, I bring it up only because every day there's huge conversations right now about whether or not the rest of the country will have that ability for absentee ballots and mail-in ballots for this upcoming November.
And it's making it easier than ever. It used to be the excuse that, and your boss is supposed to give you time. Remember kind of the old school way of going into the polling place. You're given by law a certain window to go. Now it's the kind of situation where it's sitting on your kitchen counter for weeks, and you have plenty of time to see who the people are, what the issues are, and get your vote in there. I really do. I'm very passionate about that. I don't like when people complain about what's going on in the world and then they haven't voted in 30 years. It's like, get out there and vote.
It is, you can definitely, there's two sides to this one. You either know who your candidate is, and you vote as soon as you get your ballot in, so it gets processed and counted, and so right at 8 o'clock on election night, those numbers will be counted. Plus, the candidates can tell whether or not you have voted. They don't know who you vote for, but they can tell that your ballot has been returned, and if you do that, you will be taken off the contact list to remind people, one, to vote and to turn in your ballot. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that. I don't think that's very interesting.
So you can there is a way that the campaigns can see who has turned in a ballot, not the result of that ballot, but then they're able to then, because they don't need to then talk to you because your ballot's already in. Now, then, too, though, and I'm not sure how often this would actually happen, but you vote 2 weeks early, and then something happens, and your candidate, turns out to be terrible. Well, too bad. You voted at that time with the information you had.
Right. That makes sense.
Well, today on the show, local news, conversation, COVID update, and again, election results will be on the website tonight just after 8 o'clock at iFiber1newsradio.com. We'll also talk with Mason County Health Director Dave Windom today and Sheriff Salisbury on COVID and compliance.
And since the last release, which was the 31st of July, Mason County Public Health was notified of 19 additional Mason County residents that tested positive for COVID-19, bringing the total to 185 positive cases in Mason County. Mason County Public Health is continuing contact interviews There is now 1 resident hospitalized in Mason County, 2 outside Mason County, and there are 50 active cases. And if you're showing symptoms of COVID-19, early testing is encouraged. At the earliest signs of symptoms, please reach out to the Respiratory Illness Triage Line, 360-427-3615. They can assist you in scheduling an appointment at Mason Health's drive-through COVID-19 testing.
Gyms and fitness facilities will need to nearly triple the minimum distance required for patrons exercising indoors, except for those practicing on certain sports teams. New COVID-19 guidance issued by the governor increases the requirement, Spencer, of 6 feet of distance between patrons to 300 square feet, which is about a 17-foot radius around you. The number of people, that's...
Wow.
There ain't no gym that's big enough for that. That is a huge increase.
It's only 2 people in the gym, just kind of like in March of a typical year. When he's out.
Why is that guy? There's only one person, and he's on the treadmill. I wanted to be on the treadmill.
I'll come back tomorrow.
The number of people allowed in gyms, fitness facilities, and fitness classes will be limited by the size of their space under the guidance as well. Occupancy in facilities and gyms that are larger than 12,000 square feet will be capped at 25%. In addition, showers, hot tubs, saunas, and tanning beds will be closed, as will steam rooms, squash courts, and racquetball. Holy moly.
Wow.
I don't know how that will impact the Shelton Athletic Club or Anytime Fitness, but those are not, these are not massive complexes.
No, they're not. A lot of them are very moderate spaces, so that will be interesting to see. And the 300 square feet, that confuses me. I'm glad they said about 17 feet, because I don't think anybody thinks, unless you're like a contractor and stuff, most people don't think in square footage. But that is
so that's 6 arms lengths, and right now they're saying 2 arms lengths equals 6 feet. So is that what that means? 6 arms length around your whole body?
That's a good sized bubble. It's definitely being on the safe side. Employment Security Department Commissioner Susie Levine says that an initial backlog of claims of people who had not received payment for unemployment benefits between March and June has been resolved. The agency is now working through about 30,000 other cases of people who have applied since mid-June and haven't received a payment or had previously been paid and had their payments halted. Levine said that the first backlog, which was at 81,000 as of June 18th, was fully resolved last Friday. She didn't give a time frame on when the remainder will be resolved. More than 1.2 million people have filed claims for unemployment since early March, when the pandemic job losses began. And to date, the state has paid more than $8.6 billion in benefits.
Well, last chance to watch our 35th Legislative District candidate conversations on our Facebook page and YouTube channel before tonight's primary results. You can see conversations with all 5 of our candidates running for both positions in the House of Representatives in the 35th Legislative District, current reps Dan Griffey and Drew McEwen, and their challengers Colton Myers, Darcy Huffman, and Earl Burt. Again, your ballots are due in by 8 o'clock tonight in the drop box, or make sure it's postmarked.
The Washington State Parks and Recreation Commission is asking the public to follow the guidelines for responsible recreation when planning a trip to a state park this summer. When parks are crowded and parking lots are full, visitors should go somewhere else. Popular state parks across Washington have been experiencing high numbers of visitors this summer. Large crowds are a concern because it makes social distancing difficult for park staff and for visitors. State parks also concerned about the impact large crowds have on parks' natural resources. If a parking lot is full, visitors should avoid parking on local roads to access the park on foot. Local parks seeing high numbers of visitors include Miller-Sylvania State Park in Thurston County and Tawano State Park in Mason County. Visitors should check what's open before heading out, avoid crowds, and be prepared to go somewhere else if the park is at capacity. There are 124 developed state parks across Washington that the public can choose from. If one park is crowded, there's likely another not too far away. State parks reopened day-use areas in early May after a 5-week closure due to the coronavirus pandemic. Camping began reopening June 1st. To date, not all state parks have reopened.
Those two you mentioned, Millersylvania, Tawano, are beautiful. And I can see how people are starting to get a little stir-crazy that they are looking to head out, and get somewhere. And you assume a park is a nice, big, open area. So just kind of be aware of your surroundings. That's what's going on. Today on the show, again, more conversations. It's primary election day, and Mason County Health Director Dave Windom, along with Sheriff Salisbury, will be on during the Sheriff Sit-Down, presented by our great friends at Our Community Credit Union. And before we wrap up the newscast here, I want to say a special happy anniversary to Gil and Betty Palmer. I know them. I love them. Gil came by yesterday. 64 years of marriage, Spencer. These two. I know you've met Gil. I don't know if you've had the pleasure to meet young Betty Palmer, but she is just spitfire and love her to death over the years. We've had some great times with the radio station and the Palmers. I remember when Habitat opened up on the hill, they came by. We were doing a live remote, and they came by with their hula hoops, and we spent an hour hula hooping on Olympic Highway North. It was great. So, 64, and that's a long time. 64-year anniversary, Gil and Betty Palmer. More Daybreak Show is coming up.
From the iFiber One News Radio studios, you're listening to Daybreak.
And good morning, everybody. Jeff Slakey and Spencer Hughes here on the Daybreak Show. On the phone line, we have Mason County Sheriff Casey Salisbury for the Sheriff Sit-Down, presented by Our Community Credit Union. Also, Mason County Health Director Dave Windom here, too. Good morning, guys.
Morning.
We have seen a pretty good increase in numbers over the last couple of weeks for COVID-19. Dave, can you tell the folks kind of where those are coming from and why the most recent increase has been so dramatic and what that looks for as we move into August?
So what we're seeing is we have people who are going to family events and bringing this home in some cases. We've had cases across the state where people go to weddings and it's very touchy-feely, and that just passes things around. What we're seeing here locally, I think, are people who have large families or, low-income people living in almost a congregate setting with a lot of people living in one household. And when one person gets it, then it goes through the whole family, and that's kind of what we're seeing. We have as many as 8 cases in a single family.
Wow. Are there a lot of that scenario where a congregation of multi-families are living together within the county?
Well, I think we have that as a factor. I think we have a lot of large families, and once it gets started in the family, it just keeps rolling.
Is there any concern seeing these numbers like this and possible further rollbacks on the phases, or because these seem to be family-specific, there's not as big of a concern for the overall county population?
Well, one of the advantages to having it in a family like this is it's much easier to cocoon that family and, put our arms around it, make sure they have all the resources they need to stay in place and stay quarantined or in isolation. So make sure their rent's paid, make sure they have food, keep, families supported while they go through the 14 days and get it done. And I think that's actually works to our advantage in some ways.
What do the trends look like into August right now? Have you talked with Dr. Stein about where you think we may be at the end of this month, or is there any precautions that the numbers could become even greater?
Well, statewide, we're starting to see a downtrend. Mason County, we started seeing a little bit of a downtrend at the end of last week. The beginning of last week was pretty busy, but by the end of the week and over the weekend, things started to trend down. I'm thinking that once this kind of passes through these congregate settings, we'll see a downturn, but it could turn around too. So we're just watching it and watching it across the state. The state numbers are pretty encouraging, with the exception, I think, of Okanagan County, which had just a very huge spike over the last week or so.
What do you say about the overall acceptance of face coverings throughout the county. It seems as more and more major retailers has started asking for masks upon entry, that people seem to be following those orders pretty good within business and at gatherings. And then maybe we can bring Sheriff in on this. I saw another huge collection of folks up by Cushman and that rock and stuff like that.
Well, so as far as the mask use, I think we're seeing a lot more people using masks. I see a lot of people, and it just kind of tickles me a little bit. They're on their way into a business, and they realize they don't have a mask, and they turn around, and they go back to their car and get their mask.
Right.
So people are paying attention to that, and some of the businesses are really good about handing masks out for those who don't have them when they come in. So I think the compliance is looking pretty good, and then I'll let the sheriff address the other things.
Yeah, Jeff, it's interesting to sit and listen to that. We've seen all the controversy about enforcement of these things on TV. I found in our community, especially in our businesses, locally and restaurants and that kind of thing, people are being very good about it. As far as like Dave said, people are carrying around their pockets or carrying extra ones. They're being very cautious about it. I find it so interesting that I'm just kind of laughing about the number of people you see driving down the road in their car by themselves with their mask on. And there's really not a whole lot of reason for that when you're driving by yourself in the car. But I found the other day that I came out of a business and I'm always squawking about that and jumped in the car with a mask on, and we were driving along, and my son reminded me, Dad, you still need to have your mask on. So I think people are getting a lot better about doing that and trying to keep up. As far as some of these gatherings that you find, like you're talking about up there, Party Rock, or some place where people are coming from all over, I think sometimes there's that group of people that are just going to go do what they want to do. And I think that's probably where causation of some of the problem is at, is some of these people thinking that I can just go without. But by far, our businesses in town, I think people are doing a tremendous job.
Is there, Dave, something that you can have a better primer explanation on outdoor and face covering use? I mean, if we're going to be outside on trails or accessing parks, I know that some of the play structures in Shelton have been shut down, but the parks overall are open. What are the mandates, or what are the guidelines when it comes to being outdoors but kind of in a group?
Well, I'm kind of a math nerd, so I kind of ran the numbers here the other day. If you're passing someone on the sidewalk who's walking towards you, the amount of time you're within 6 feet is like 0.46 seconds. That really doesn't qualify as an exposure.
Right.
And people are wearing masks on the sidewalks and things, but I would say the risk is very low just walking past someone on a trail, especially, and people being, from what I hear, very polite about how they interact with each other on the trail. So they're looking away, whatever they're doing, but they're trying to make other people feel comfortable. And really, the risk is very low, just walking past someone.
It is important for folks to get out there and get some exercise. It's overall mental health and well-being. So if you're able, I've seen people with masks out on trails and without masks. And a lot of times if folks don't, they'll look away or just keep their head down, try to not, make eye contact really. So it does seem like people are keeping their eyes on that one as well. Well, we'll continue to keep our eyes and report on the numbers that you guys provide. Again, the Facebook page, All Hazards News, is great to have information. We share the links when we get them from the health department. Dave Windom is the Mason County Health Director, and Sheriff Salisbury, Mason County Sheriff, during the Sheriff Sit-Down today, presented by our great friends at Our Community Credit Union. Dave, Casey, thank you so much, guys, for spending some time with me this morning, and we'll check in next week.
Hey, thanks. Thanks, Jeff. Take care.
See you guys.
You're listening to Daybreak on I-501 News Radio.
Well, Tuesday again here, primary election day, and again, get those ballots in by 8 o'clock tonight. There are the drop boxes all across the county or in your post box for their letter carrier. Now, one thing to remember as we bring in Spencer. Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Just one thing to remember is if you're going to be putting your mail in one of the traditional blue USPS post office boxes, you need to check to make sure you aren't past the final pickup time. Because if you have, if you're going to put your ballot in and it's past the final pickup time, well, guess what? It's not going to get picked up until tomorrow, and your vote won't get counted. So if you're about to put it into a drop box slot or into a post office slot, check the time. And if you need to, maybe look to find one of the county's authorized election ballot return drop boxes to get that in there, because, you know, this is a great privilege and right that we have here to do. And I hate for you to miss it because you didn't look at the time, you know.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. That's true.
And then after you place your ballot in the mail, you can pat yourself on the back and go get an ice cream cone or something.
Pat yourself on the belly. That's what I always do.
Yeah, pat yourself on the belly.
Yeah, there's a new survey showing that we're turning to...
Yeah. Go ahead.
A new survey showing Americans are turning to comfort food to combat the quarantine blues. Are you guilty?
I am very guilty, and comfort food also lends itself to easy food. You know, there are just, over the pandemic, it seems like we've kind of fallen into there's, you know, a little more popcorn in the evening, a little more just sweet treats all about the house that you just kind of walk by and nibble on. And not to mention the stress involved with everything that's going on, the pandemic, and stress eating is a thing. Mm-hmm. Sensodyne has this survey, huh? So what does it say in here?
They're finding that 37% of respondents have been scarfing down comfort food on a daily basis. 38% said they're partaking every other day during lockdown, and 60% of respondents, 60% of respondents turning to ice cream, chocolates, and other sweets were also popular. And we were just talking off air how I would have even a bigger problem if I had a sweet tooth. Luckily, I don't, but I had some really good, like, bourbon ice cream last night, and had a bowl of it. And that's my sweet treat for a while. But I could see this. In the beginning of the pandemic, I was, you know, walking 6 miles a day. Remember, I was up to like 30 miles a week or something. And then just kind of, when we got back to work, it just wasn't feasible to be spending that much time walking. And it's been hard. And my stress eating, when I do it, is salty foods. That's my weakness. Maybe fried things. I
mean, I just overeat. I mean, I just eat and eat and eat. And so we've been having a conversation with Kaiser about making sure he is getting lots of water, because we were playing T-ball. We have 3 T-ball games this week, so we're going to need to be hydrated. And I told him, I says, you and I should do this together, because I need to be a little better at drinking water too, because I feel that is cause a lot of my hunger is being dehydrated.
Yes.
So I'm going to try to keep boosting up the water and see if that helps just my snacking in the evening. The other thing I had thought of would be to have like a protein shake in the evening.
That's a good
because
idea.
It has protein in it, and so that'll help fill up your stomach a little bit as well.
Yeah, that's definitely the healthier way.
That's why you're seeing a lot of social media pictures, people from the neck up.
Yeah.
Or just, or maybe just their arm. From the nose up, yeah, because of the mask.
Oh, my goodness. Neck up, I'd have my 7 chins.
Otherwise, we all end up looking like bowling pins.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, more Daybreak Show is coming up. Again, reminder, get those ballots in, and primary election results will be up on ifiber1newsradio.com after 8 o'clock this evening. More Daybreak Show coming up. Good morning to you.
Thank you so much for listening to today's Daybreak with Jeff Slakey podcast. Again, I'm so happy and honored you found us and chose to listen. Please subscribe, rate, review, and share this with your circle of influence. It's a collection of some of the interviews, news, and conversation during Daybreak with Jeff Slakey on iFiber One News Radio KMAS, weekdays from 6 to 9. Thank you so much again, and talk with you next time.